First, continued concerns from first responders over a new statewide communication system. So, going in depth tonight with Department of Public Safety Commissioner Jess Anderson, who is the very first leader of a public safety agency to sit down and talk about the ongoing concerns from various first responders about the way they communicate with Utah's new communication system. What are your impressions of the new statewide communication system?
Well, we knew that going into this, the P25 cutover was going to be complex, very difficult. It was going to be disruptive. We've experienced that previous with other cutovers that we've done throughout my career. And so, you know, just the fact is we knew that going into this, it was going to be test our patience.
What concerns or frustrations are you hearing from your users on this system?
Well, you know, just like what you would expect, what I did expect going into this, it was the fact is that we know that there's going to be some fine tuning that needs to happen. And so now we're into that phase where as the cutover is now well underway and has done throughout the state, there's an opportunity for us now to fine tune the equipment. And that's what we support UCA in doing, in making sure that they know exactly what those needs are. And so as we've asked our troopers and our officers out throughout the state and others, make a list. You know, what are those issues? And then we create that punch list and we start addressing it. So that's where we're at.
What are some things that stand out on those lists?
Well, of course, first and foremost for us is officer safety. We don't want anybody to be put in jeopardy or otherwise, you know, in a compromising situation because of a radio situation. But so we understand that, and we recognize that perhaps if there are concerns with that, we've got to address it immediately, right? But then it's prioritizing from there, just understanding, making sure that the equipment works and the radios are functioning properly.
You alluded to your career being involved in many of these cutover processes, whether it probably was here in Utah or elsewhere. Knowing there will be problems or potential fine-tuning, as you mentioned, should there have been further preliminary testing done on sites to ensure we could lessen the blowback from the rollout?
Well, I think UCA did a fine job in that, actually going into this. You know, being privileged to have access to some of the workings of what's going on in the background in my position, I certainly saw what was happening and occurring, and there's a painstaking, long years worth of work and process to even get to where we were today before that cutover happened. And I think UCA was dutiful in that. They've certainly gone through their own growing pains and issues over the years, but the fact is where Tina's at today and what she's been able to accomplish and what she's committed to, working with the vendor, working with the company and all the agencies. The communications have been, you know, up to par and we're exactly where we need them. And so it's just one, though, until it happens, you just don't know what you don't know until all of a sudden you flip the switch. And then that's when a lot of the heartache or the growing pains continue to go. And so it just requires patience. And you know, so I've encouraged, you know, other agencies and chiefs and sheriffs and all of our stakeholders and users also to be patient. But we've certainly got to continue to address those needs.
Who holds UCA, and in this circumstance, the provider, L3Harris Technologies, accountable for making these fixes?
Well, ultimately it's the legislature. Exactly when, you know, if there's an opportunity here to question or at least give accountability and report, you know, it's through the legislature that's appropriated a lot of money toward this, but also, and that's basically what it comes down to, is the funding of it.
Was it a good idea to move away from the legacy system and move into this?
Yes, we didn't have any choice. Knowing and understanding that the legacy system was at end of life. The parts, the pieces, the network, everything, we were constantly holding our breath. And having run, as we run several PSAPs throughout the state coming from DPS, we were very well aware of those issues. We were very well aware of holding our breath every time a system went down, that we could get it back up.
Supportive of the Utah Communications Authority, Commissioner Anderson said next, we have to move forward. There's no going back. I've been hearing from first responders across the state about this, first brought to my attention months ago. Those messages keep coming each day this week. Here are some questions to Commissioner Anderson about what's repeatedly been shared with me. Why are first responders in Utah fearful about speaking about their safety?
Well, I would guess that first and foremost, they're very respectful. First responders are very respectful to a process and a chain of command. And so I can see that they are being very respectful. If there's concern, if there's frustration, right? I can also see that because nobody likes change. This new system takes a little bit of getting used to. It is not like the old system. And as I've told same with our employees and our troopers, that years ago when we switched over before, it was the same way.
Should political retaliation or the threat of somebody's job in public safety outweigh public safety concerns in this situation?
No, not at all. You know, the fact of it is there's those processes that are being placed, though, right? That is the Public Safety Advisory Council, and I would recommend, and their voices are being heard, and that's the place to go to have your voice heard. And anybody who wants to reach directly out to Tina, I know that UCA she's very receptive to anybody who wants to reach out. I'm not aware of anybody who's been told not to say something. Definitely, we need to hear that. We need to go to it. But there's also a process, and it isn't to instill fear in society. That's not helpful. It's not to instill fear in organizations. That's not helpful either if they're seeing issues. We can handle these diplomatically. We can handle them through channels where those issues are being addressed, and it's through that Public Safety Advisory Council. You mentioned time and patience. Can we afford that when we're talking about critical comms? It's hard to say, right? You don't want to say that. The fact is that every second counts. Every time you push a button, you expect it to work. And so, again, officer safety issues are our number one concern. We certainly don't want to put anybody I would not want to see anybody be put in jeopardy because of a radio issue. But at the same time, those are the issues why we're saying, and maybe time and patience in our timeline is meaning, that's a quick time fix. And we bring those things forward, and that's why I know that my communications with UCA is ongoing, and certainly to get those addressed as soon as we hear about them. So in some instances, first responders sharing with me they're being threatened with disciplinary action if they speak to us or me about these concerns. But they say these concerns are about the safety of their lives, their partners, and the communities that they serve.
So like checking the air for 1 Alpha 29 for a code 4 check.
What can happen if those comms fail?
Well, comms fail, then it's going to delay, obviously, responses for everything. It would just be back to... we were so reliant upon that, but also through computer systems, right, and CAD to CAD systems that also are part of this system. And so we can. Part of it is there is no alternative. We've got to have the communications network up and running and be able to make this effective. And so, again, there's a lot of fine tuning that needs to happen. The adjustments that are occurring, and recognizing that's going to take us some time, right? We still need to be patient with it. In the meantime, though, any real critical issues that we identify or we see, that we certainly make UCA aware very quickly, and the vendor, that they can get on top of it very, very fast. And they have been. They've been responsive, at least to us and our needs. And every time that I've reached out and made the UCA aware of a certain situation, they've responded. And in turn, UCA was responsive to us as well. We did an interview with them and have included them in other parts of our coverage, which you see on your screen. There will be a lot more. Behind the scenes, work is being done as it has been the entire time. So that isn't necessarily new here. But if you'd like to go back and check out our coverage, including the body camera video you see here of a radio failure taking place on a critical call, you can find it right now on our YouTube page or on our website, KUTV.com.